Hello and welcome to the Weekend Review on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Mukhtar Kasim. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and on StarTimes channel 276. The Weekend Review is a program that brings you a roundup of the biggest stories and major events that shaped the past 7 days across Nigeria and beyond. We begin with the nation's security situation, where President Bola Tinubu, in the week under review, assured Nigerians that the recent surge in violence and insecurity will not be allowed to destabilize the country. Speaking during an extensive high-level security session at the State House in Abuja, the president stressed that the decisive actions are being taken to protect citizens and restore peace. Kikelomo Okere has the details.
The high-level security meeting brought together top defense and intelligence officials, the service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, and the Director General of the Department of State Service, Oluwatosin Adeola Ajayi. Addressing State House correspondent, the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Waheed Shaibu, says the high-level meeting reflects the President's ongoing engagement with security stakeholders to accelerate rescue operations, strengthen counter-kidnapping efforts, and restore stability across the nation.
Presently, we are receiving very good, positive news from Kwara State, where the entire 38 people that were abducted have been reunited with their families. And progress is also made from Niger State, whereby we have about 51 of those students that have now reunited with their families. For Kebbi State, our efforts are also yielding positive results. Progress is being made substantially in that aspect.
The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, says, in the view of the current security challenges facing the country, President Tinubu is desirous of boosting police presence in all communities. The President ordered the withdrawal of police officers currently providing security for very important persons in the country.
Emergency meeting of the service chief with the Inspector General of Police with Mr. President is to review recent incidents of abduction of school children in Kebbi and in Niger, an attack on vulnerable communities. Went further to give orders to us, orders which include the immediate action to free the police from VIP protection and provide more men for the ongoing fight.
With coordinated action from the nation's security agencies and the President's direct oversight, the government assures Nigerians that restoring peace and safeguarding lives remains its top priority. Kikelomo Okere, Global Television News.
Let's now turn to politics, where former APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje in the past week urged citizens in Kano State to obtain their permanent voter cards ahead of the 2027 elections. Ganduje made the appeal while addressing party stakeholders and executives from all 44 local government areas in Kano State during a strategic meeting.
The purpose of this meeting for the last 3 days, which we have been having, as we are moving towards 2027, there is need for us to ensure that there is complete unity in our party. Unity from top to bottom. We have to ensure that there is solidarity for our party and solidarity to the federal government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Also, the purpose of the meeting is to ensure a new commitment as according to the renewed reform agenda. So members of our party, the delegates, they have shown their commitment to ensure that 2027 we win all the elections from top to bottom. In order to be active in the party, we have directed all our offices at the local government level 44 local governments, all our offices at the ward level, 484 wards. Such offices should be physically accessible.
Ganduji also encouraged party executives to remain visible, accessible and committed to grassroots mobilization. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party in the week in review expressed concerns over the worsening security situation across the country. And this follows reports that over 300 students and staff were abducted in Niger State, while 25 were kidnapped in Kebbi State in just 1 week. Our correspondent, Obong Usoro, reports.
It has been a week of fear, tension and tears across northern Nigeria as armed groups carried out multiple attacks on schools, abducting hundreds of students. But the People's Democratic Party says the federal government's response has been slow, weak and dangerously close to conceding ground. The PDP National Publicity Secretary, Ini Ememobong, warned that moves by some state governments and the federal government to shut down schools amount to giving terrorists exactly what they want, an end to formal education in northern Nigeria.
In response to this, different state governments in the affected region have taken disparate measures, while the federal government has yet to give any concrete direction.
The party notes that the North already accounts for most of Nigeria's 18.3 million out-of-school children, according to UNICEF. A further closure of schools, it says, would deepen the crisis and embolden criminal groups.
If the schools are closed, the goal of the terrorists would have inadvertently been achieved.
The PDP also said asking the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, to relocate to Kebbi State is not a solution to the problem, as there are other states being affected by insurgency. Ubong Usoro for Global Television News.
Now head to the National Assembly, where the Senate in the past week passed a resolution declaring kidnapping an act of terrorism. The resolution mandates an amendment of the Terrorism Act to impose the death penalty on convicted kidnappers. The move comes amidst growing concerns over insecurity in Kwara, Kebbi, and Niger State. Senate correspondent Topsy Gimba has the details.
Senator Lola Ashiru of Kwara South, who sponsored the motion for urgent federal intervention after recent eruptions, including school children in Kebbi. The Senate also debated reports of soldiers withdrawing from vulnerable areas before attacks. Senator Inaya Abaribe and other senators criticized the government's handling of security, saying the administration must own up to its failures instead of blaming predecessors.
The governor of Kebbi said that somebody ordered troops out and people were kidnapped. Till today, nobody in Nigeria knows what happened, and no question has been asked. The commander of that area who ordered that those men be withdrawn, it is to be a national secret to be kept within military cycle.
As some lawmakers continue to propagate the claim that security agencies know the locations and motives of bandits, Senator Akpabio condemned attempts to frame the crisis along religious or sectional lines.
Families are suffering. Some people are living in their comfort places, making phone calls with these bandits. Can't we identify them? We can identify them. How do we do it? The gadgets were bought for the National Security Advisor. The gadgets were bought for telecommunications. They will be able to tell us where all these people are. In cities and villages. And kidnapping now is one of the best paying jobs in Nigeria. All across. In fact, kidnapping now pays more than oil. We can continue to buy arms and ammunition and platforms from other countries. But that is not the way to go in the long run. Because we bought the Super Tucanos. What happened? So the sensors that we needed. Let us use this opportunity to give the president or the leadership the necessary support in order to address this very serious problem of insecurity that is expanding.
Senate President Godswill Akpabio described kidnappings as organized attacks aimed at destabilizing Nigeria's democracy.
The laws of the Federation now on terrorism, anti-terrorism, all laws relating to terrorism and kidnapping, the penalty for kidnapping should be changed immediately to carry the maximum punishment of death.
The new legislation aims to send a strong message against kidnappers amid nationwide security challenges. Topsy Gimba, reporting for Global Television News.
In a related development, the House of Representatives dedicated its entire plenary session this week to Nigeria's worsening security crisis. Speaker Tajuddin Abbas and other lawmakers raised motions urging the fight against insurgent, bandit, and criminal network must go beyond routine rhetorics. He called for stronger political will at all levels of government. National Assembly correspondent Anita Patrick reports.
The sponsor of the motion, Ibe Osonwa, described the situation as alarming as it duly undermines public confidence and accountability within the security system.
The House has observed that this gross lack of proper identification at checkpoints creates a dangerous climate of ambiguity, making it virtually impossible for citizens to distinguish between genuine security personnel and criminal impersonators.
Adopting the motion, the House resolved that the Inspector General of Police should appear before the Committee on Police Affairs to explain why the situation persists and what steps are being taken to correct it. In a related development, Ahmed Saba from Kwara State urged the federal government to send humanitarian relief to communities in Patagi affected by recent insurgent attacks. He commended the Nigerian Army for restoring calm to the area.
Of ongoing effort of the Nigerian Army and other security agencies, including police, force, Department of State Security Service, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, and local vigilante group to combat the bandit and restore peace.
Also on the floor, Uyime Idem of Akwa Ibom State raised concerns over oil spills and environmental degradation in Ukanafong local government area, calling for urgent federal intervention.
Concerned that the persistent oil spillages have contaminated and subjected residents to economic hardship.
Before removing the EFCC chairman past second reading, the proposal was sponsored by Yusuf Gaddi of Plateau State.
Cybercrime, cryptocurrency manipulation, illicit financial flows, terrorism financing, and real estate-based money laundering had become prevalent. Yet, the EFCC operate under outdated provisions that do not adequately address those new realities.
And in what could lead to a new state in Nigeria, the House also considered a bill seeking to create Ijebu State from present-day Ogun State. The bill, sponsored by Olufemi Ogunbanwo and 3 others, has now been referred to the Constitution Review Committee for further legislative work. From the National Assembly, Anita Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
Now let's move away from the National Assembly and away from insecurity matters, where across Africa, climate change is no longer just an abstract idea. It is a daily reality for families, farmers, and young people struggling with floods, drought, and rising living costs. Here in Abuja, climate advocates gathered to close out the African Activism for Climate Change project, a 5-year initiative that has driven conversations, community actions, and policy engagement across Nigeria. Ubong Usoro has the details.
In Abuja, activists, young leaders, and community organizers from different parts of the country converged for the final closeout meeting of the African Activists for Climate Justice, AACJ. For many of them, the gathering was more than a formal ceremony. It was a reunion of voices who have spent the last 5 years advocating, mobilizing, and pushing for climate justice across Nigeria. Climate change leader at Oxfam, Kenneth Akpan, emphasized the need to sustain community-driven climate initiative beyond the close of the AAC project.
Healthy environment to thrive, knowing that we contribute less than 2% of the overall cost of the climate impact globally.
During the meeting, one of the project's partner, David Terunwa, Executive Director of GSEF, commended Adamawa State for its leadership and commitment to climate action and urged other states to take greater responsibility in setting and meeting their climate commitments nationwide.
And I believe that subnational policies are critical to building climate resilience.
As the AAC project comes to an end in Nigeria, climate advocates say the real work is only just beginning. They believe that with stronger political will, continuous community engagement, and sustained collaboration, states across the country can build a more resilient and climate-secured future for millions of Nigerians. Ubong Usoro for Global Television News.
Let's now head to Zamfara State, where the First Lady Huraiya Dauda Lawal in the Week in Review officially flagged off the 2025 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence. She called for collective action to eliminate all forms of violence, both political and digital, against women and girls. This year's theme, Unite, End Digital Violence Against Women and Girls, highlights the often overlooked reality that online abuses cause real psychological, emotional, and social harm. Nafisa Baba has the details.
This year's theme focuses on the rapid rise of technology-driven violence, including cyber-stalking, online harassment, unsolicited sharing of private images, digital blackmail, and misinformation targeted at women and girls. Speaking at the launch of this year's 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence, the Zamfara First Lady described gender-based violence as a growing threat to societal well-being and development. She expressed concern that digital platforms originally created for communication, learning, and innovations are increasingly being used as tools for harassment, cyberbullying, blackmail, and exploitation. She stressed that digital violence must be taken as seriously as physical violence, as both have lasting consequences.
In this fast-growing digital world, our phones, our devices, and our social media platforms have become extensions of our lives. Sadly, they have also become tools for harassment, bullying, blackmail, exploitation, cyber-talking, and emotional violence. Online abuse is not virtual. It is cause of real pain, real trauma, and real harm.
The Zamfara State Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Hajia Aisha Anka, reaffirmed the state government's commitment to protecting the dignity, safety, and rights of all citizens. She described gender-based violence as a major barrier to family stability, community development, and social progress.
Today, we join the global community in raising our voices to demand an end to all forms of violence against women, girls, children, and vulnerable persons in our society. A call to action, a reminder that the well-being, dignity, and safety of every woman and girl must be protected at all times.
Participants at the event urged victims of gender-based violence, whether online or offline, to speak up and seek help without fear. They also called on stakeholders, community leaders, and the media to intensify awareness campaigns to ensure that every woman and girl in Zamfara is protected. Nafisa Baba, Global TV News.
In business, the Central Bank of Nigeria in the past week kept the monetary policy rate at 27% to give earlier tightening measures more time to impact the economy. The bank also confirmed that more financial institutions are strengthening their capital position, with 16 banks meeting the new minimum requirement and 27 others raising fresh capital. Business correspondent Kikelomo Okere reports.
At the final Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the year in Abuja, CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso announced that the bank has recovered 2 trillion naira from the past intervention programs over the last 2 years, although more than 4.69 trillion naira remains outstanding. The MPC maintained the benchmark interest rate at 27% and adjusted the asymmetric corridor to plus 50 and minus 450 basis points. The central bank says its stance reflects the need to consolidate progress in slowing inflation.
The committee decided by a majority vote to maintain the current monetary policy stance with an adjustment to the corridor as follows. 1. Retain the monetary policy rate MPR at 27%. The committee's decision was underpinned by the need to to sustain the progress made so far towards achieving low and stable inflation.
On intervention fund, Governor Cardoso explained that the bank cannot introduce new programs while substantial portion of old interventions remains unpaid. A CBN review shows total commitment of about 10.93 trillion naira since 2010, with 4.69 trillion naira still outstanding. Despite this improvement, inflation remains elevated. The NPC believes holding rates steady will help sustain disinflation and allow the impact of previous rate hikes to flow fully into the real economy. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Still in business, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association in Kano State this week called on the federal government to review the petroleum subsidy removal policy. According to the association, price fluctuations are forcing many marketers out of business, with nearly 40% having already shut down operations. Global Television correspondent Idris Jibrin reports.
At the start of his administration, President Bola Tinubu announced the removal of petroleum subsidy, a decision that immediately triggered a sharp hike in fuel prices nationwide. The ripple effect has been a persistent rise in the cost of living, driven largely by increased transportation expenses. While government maintains that the subsidy removal is intended to strengthen the nation's economy, Nigerians continue to buy fuel at highly unstable and often exorbitant prices that changes almost daily.
Many people now, they park their cars. They cannot even afford to always buy fuel and then to transport themselves. Even me, I always used to do it maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
According to independent petroleum marketers in Kano, this unpredictable price fluctuation has become their biggest challenge. Many have lost their capital to the unstable market, leaving several stations unable to continue operations.
The
problem of price fluctuation is mainly from the depot where we used to buy the fuel. For example, if you buy 100 naira fuel, you will be expected to include your transportation cost on the pump price. But before you even reach Kano from Lagos, you may hear that the fuel has dropped with 20 naira. They warn that unless the federal government review the subsidy removal policy, particularly by introducing a regulated minimum or maximum price, Nigerians will continue to struggle with high fuel cost, while many more marketers risk being pushed out of business. We actually need government intervention by giving us notice of increase or decrease price. Because before the start of this problem, we have people with 10 to 20 trucks, but today they have been reduced to only 1 truck. Fuel is not scarce in Kano at the moment, but there is no uniform pump price, as filling stations continue to sell at different rates across the states. From Kano, Idris Jibrin, Global Television News.
On foreign scene in the week under review, where General Horta Nta Man was this week sworn in as Guinea-Bissau's transnational president following the ouster of President Omar Sissoco Embalo in the country's latest coup. Nta Man, previously army chief and one close ally to Embalo, said the military acted due to sufficient evidence justifying the takeover and urgent measures were needed to restore order. Soldiers were seen patrolling a tense but mostly quiet Bissau. The coup unfolded ahead of the provisional election results between Embalo and challenger Fernando Diaz, with the self-styled high military command asserting control in the countries long plagued by political instability and drug trafficking networks. And now to sports stories that made the rounds. Arsenal in the week in review defeated Bayern Munich 3-1 at the Emirates Stadium, reclaiming the top spot in their Champions League group with a dominant second-half performance. Goals from Jurrien Timber, Noni Madueke and Gabriel Martinelli sealed the win after Bayern Lennart Karl had equalized earlier. The victory reinforces Arsenal's perfect Champions League form this season. Also this week, Nigeria's The Tigers began their 2027 FIBA World Cup African qualifiers in Tunis, determined to avoid another major World Cup miss following the Super Eagles' failure to qualify. Coach Mohamed Abdurrahman says despite late arrivals and limited preparation time, the squad remains motivated and confident. Nigeria lost to host Tunisia in the opening match, with Rwanda and Guinea also competing for limited qualification spot. And that's the week in review for this edition, a roundup of the major stories, decisions, and events that shaped the past 7 days across Nigeria and beyond. Thank you for staying with us here on Global Television. I am Mukhtar Kasim, wishing you a productive week ahead.